Real quick, before this video starts, I just want to get on here and express my gratitude towards you guys because we just hit 2,000 subscribers, man. To me, that's crazy. When I started, I thought it was just gonna take forever. I mean, it was a grind to get to where we are, but hey, we're here, man. We're progressing, doing what we love to do, building Hondas, just grinding every day to make things happen, man. I wasn't able to say this in the video because while I was filming and editing, we hadn't hit 2,000 yet. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it now at the beginning. But yeah, thank you guys again for 2,000, and here's to 5,000, man. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The weather here in Denver, Colorado is getting so good, man, which means that we need to keep making progress on the Accord, which is what we're gonna do in this video. We're gonna be finishing up all the body work that's left. That way, moving forward from here, it's just way smoother and way quicker pace. It's just taking forever because we've had to pretty much body work the whole car. But before we do that, we've been having to take the car down to bare metal pretty much everywhere. And this video isn't gonna be an exception, man. So we're gonna start off here with the door. I kind of already got a head start taking off some of this sticky shit like the molding stuff. And I'm using this drill here with an eraser wheel. And guys, if you guys ain't using this thing to take off that molding shit, then you guys are sleeping, because it makes it so fast and you don't have to sit there with chemicals. Oh, you wait forever, just, you know, wasting your life, man. Let me get you guys on the tripod real quick. That way I could show you how quick it is. Look at that, bruh. Hella fast. And the best thing is that it doesn't leave any of that residue behind. So all you gotta do is clean off the little dust or whatever it leaves behind, and you're good to go. Look at that, baby. Perfect. All right, guys, well, hell yeah, look at that. You guys saw in real time how fast that was. And now from here, we can start sanding down to bare metal. And the reason we have to is because I cleaned it off, and yeah, you can see all these little marks right here, right there. That's crow's feet starting to happen on the paint, which again, as if you guys have been watching, you know that means we have to take it down to bare metal. So yeah, I'm not even gonna think about it. We're just gonna get right to it, man. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the 180 again. I could go to 80 to make it quicker, but from my experience, I've noticed that 80 grit is way harder to take out from the metal than the 180, so I don't like going that course. It's gonna take a little bit longer, but I mean, not really, because then I'm gonna have to spend the time to take out all of that fucking 80 grit anyway, so I'd just rather do the 80. Now, even though I am using the 180 to take this door down to bare metal, with the paint being as thin as it is, it's actually pretty quick. The thing that bottlenecks my progress is the compressor. Since I don't have the hookups for a big 220 compressor, I'm stuck to the 120, and it just takes forever to load back up, so I have to keep taking breaks in between and letting the compressor build back up. But you can see we still make pretty good progress, and the metal's starting to show through. We're making pretty good progress. The metal's starting to peek through. The sandpaper's doing a really good job. I actually remembered that I had some 120 laying around, which is actually right on the fucking like borderline of how coarse I want to go. So I'm glad I had those. It's actually speeding it up a little bit, but now we can actually see what's going on here. So it looks like we got bare metal, and then like some sort of sealer, or I doubt it's epoxy, but, and then we got the gray primer, and then we got the fucking base coat here, and then the clear coat right there. But once again, after it's down to bare metal, we're gonna save time by not having to body work this bottom section, only right here. I think only here from like the door handle down, because from the handle up is good as well. It's just this little section here. I know what you're thinking. Why is this door a different color than the rest of the car? Well, the original door had a big crease in it, and that's how I got it from the previous owner. So I figured instead of trying to fix it, it'd be quicker and way less effort to just sacrifice 60 bucks and go get the cleanest one I could find from the junkyard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the door is fully sanded down to bare metal, and you can actually tell how much cleaner this bottom section is than up here. Look, let me get a better lighting. There you go. You can see all the little dents that we have going on along the whole top part. It gets worse as we come back here, especially around the handle for some reason. But other than that, the majority of the work's gonna happen on the top half. I'm gonna fully finish doing these edges real quick. I just wanted to show you guys what the damage looks like before I like completely went in there by hand and took all that off. But yeah, from here we'll move on to laying down some filler. Oh yeah, and before I forget to show you, so this is why, another reason why I'm taking it down to bare metal, because look, we have little rust spots. I've taken some off around here. Look, we can see another one here. Actually, no, I think I left them so I could show you. There's another one there, another one there, and then a couple right here. This is pretty much the perfect example of why it's important to take your body panels down to bare metal once you start seeing crow's feet, because you just never know what you're gonna find under the paint. And honestly, we would be wasting our time by not doing this, because if we were to spray over this, guaranteed within a couple years the paint would just start to bubble and peel off. All right, ladies and gents, got it all cleaned up. I went by hand on the edges and into each one of the little dents that we had. That way we make sure that the filler has something good to grab onto. So from here, some people would use the filler right on the metal, and some people, like I did here, will spray epoxy first and then do the bodywork / filler over the epoxy, which is honestly the method that I prefer and that makes the most sense in my head, because the epoxy is meant for rust protection, right, and corrosion, and plus you could do body work over it, so it just kind of makes sense to, you know, do it that way. But since I don't really have the time to like spray this down, I guess we'll have this door be the test dummy for it. We'll just lay the filler right over it, and I guess if we have any issues down the line, they'll present themselves, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, looking back at how little of like dents they are, I would like to use the glaze that I had, but I don't know, something inside like the box that I had it in punctured the little bag, because it didn't come in a can like the main filler. It came in like a little bag, so something punctured it and it just started leaking everywhere, and I can't use that no more. So I mean, this ain't bad. It's just a little harder to sand than the fucking glaze, but no big deal. With the paint fully stripped off the passenger side door, we can now focus on mixing up this body filler. I'm mixing up quite a bit because we're doing the whole middle section, but I'm only adding a little bit of hardener because on hot days like this, the sun acts as its own hardener. So with this body filler fully spread out, we just have to wait for it to turn from pink to green, which gives us the green light to start sanding. All right, guys, it's dry. Now I'm gonna start off with the 180 on the DA just to make it a little quicker to knock down the ridges. But then after that, we'll just go straight with the 180 on the block by hand and just knock it out by hand. We're gonna do everything by hand now except the very beginning. That way we could get a smooth finish. I know if you're starting out, it's gonna be super tempting to skip all the steps and do the whole thing with the DA because you want to go quicker, but it's not going to come out good. This is strictly just to knock off that top layer and then follow it up by the 180 on the block by hand. All right, I got the ridges knocked down pretty good. You can still kind of see them, but from here I'm going to spray some guide coat. That way we can see all the high and low spots. And I'm also going to be using the block. Like I mentioned, we're going to be doing everything by hand from now on. That way we can get a straight finish, and the bigger the block, the better straighter finish you can get, because you're working a bigger area simultaneously than if we had like a smaller block like this. Now this thing was pretty expensive. It was like 40 some, almost 50 bucks with tax at the paint store, but I mean, it's worth it because it's going to give us a better finish. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this guide coat. We're going to block by hand with 180 until we smooth it out. And once it's smooth, we can go back over it with the 180 on the DA to smooth out the hand scratch, because the DA gives a softer scratch than by hand. And then if I feel like we need to, I can go up to 200, but I don't have to if I don't want to, because we're gonna be spraying epoxy over this, and I could spray over 180 because that's what the epoxy calls for.
Before we start blocking this out by hand, I need to spray the guide coat, which is a huge part of the process because it allows us to see all the high and low spots on the panel. Without the guide coat, we would never be able to tell what's going on, and we would just be pretty much guessing. So with it blocked out by hand with the 180, we switched over to the smaller block to be able to go in and take care of all the details that we need to and get in the hard to reach spot. But after a solid 2 hours of sanding, we finally have this door blocked out by hand and looking good.
All right guys, I got it all blocked out with the 180 by hand, and now from here I'm gonna switch over to the 180 on the DA because it gives a smoother scratch than by hand. And I also put the interface pad on here, this like cushion, because I don't want it to really take off too much material anymore. I just want it to get rid of that 180 that we did by hand.
So once again, we're busting out that guide coat, making sure to use it on every part of the process, because again, it just ensures that we're able to see the scratches that we want to remove. Now there are two different types of guide coat, this one that I'm using in a can and one that comes in like a powder form, which some people prefer because you can get it into the crevices a little bit better, but this one works just as good and it's cheaper.
So this right here is why we use guide coat, because I already went over this area, but you can still see that there's a little bit of black left compared to over here. It looks way cleaner, but without the guide coat I would have never been able to see that. So then we would have still had that 180 scratch that we did by hand left on there. So that's why it's important to always use guide coat, even though you think you're gonna be able to see it or be able to skip the step. I mean, I guess you can, but it's just gonna show in your work and then it's just gonna be shit. But I mean, I guess if one is okay with that, that's okay, but I'm not that type of person, you know. So we got to use guide coat, make sure we take all the necessary steps to get the result that we want.
Like I was mentioning earlier, we can spray directly over the 180 sand scratch, but I was feeling a little more ambitious on the door and wanted it to come out a little smoother, so we hit it with a 220 to ensure a super flat finish and have something good for the epoxy to lay on.
All right guys, she's all sanded down with the 220 and you can tell there's no more of the black left. Super thin layer now, only pretty much where we need it, although it does look white like one whole patch. It's super thin. So from here I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a final wipe down, and then it'll be a good time to feel the panel and see if we have any more work we need to do before we keep moving forward. All right, these rags are super nice too. Shout out to Brian from Paint Society for recommending them, because they actually soak up way better than the other ones, man. And like I said, we're just feeling the panel one last time just to make sure it's all good to go. And it feels really nice. I'm glad, because it's a lot of work that goes into this, man. And a lot of people honestly don't decide to go this far. They'll just sand it down and shoot it over the top, which I mean, I guess you can do, but it's not going to give you a true restoration, you know what I'm saying? Because this method, taking it down to bare metal, we're pretty much giving the car a whole new life as far as the paint job. Especially with like the epoxy and all the steps we're taking to protect it, it should last a really long time and look good doing it too. All right guys, we got the trunk lid here on the stand, and as you can see, it already has epoxy on it. I sanded it down to bare metal only on the top part though. I don't know why I didn't do this side. I should have, but you can see where I didn't spray epoxy that it rusted where it has the bare metal because it was sitting for a few months. And then we'll have to body work this little spot right here, low spot right here, and then a little high spot right here. I'm not too sure what happened here, kind of weird, but we'll have to figure that out too.
So I'm gonna sand the epoxy down with 180, and I'm using the interface pad again because I don't really want to take off too much material. I just want to give it enough of a scratch so we can lay down the filler. And again, the reason I'm using the 180 is because that's what the filler calls for. So yeah. And then the cool thing, I need to reposition this. The cool thing about the epoxy is that it serves as its own guide coat. So you'll see once I start sanding, you'll be able to see all that hail damage, all the low spots. Because I'll be sanding and then wherever the low spot is, wherever the dent is, doesn't get sanded. So you'll be able to tell the difference right away.
Compared to the door, you can see that we already have epoxy sprayed on this trunk lid. Now this is the method that I prefer because we can still do our body work over the epoxy. So it makes sense to just spray it first, that way we get the rust and corrosion protection.
Damn, that epoxy is nice. It's not like it's not hard to sand, but it's not super soft to where like it's gonna sand away right away as you hit it. Like you can see I went over it quite a bit and it's still there. We're not peeking through to the metal or anything. And yeah, and it's weird because it smells like, the only way I could explain the smell of this epoxy is that it smells vintage. I don't know how else to really explain it. I guess it's because it reminds me of the smell of my grandma. She's like 98 years old, but when we were at her house, that's what it used to smell like. Nice. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that.
All right, guys, we got it sanded down with the 180, and I just want to show you real quick the spots. You can see where the hail damage is now. And on the edges, you can see it cuts through pretty quick to the metal. Same thing up here. But I mean, no big deal because we're going to spray this whole thing, pretty much the whole car again with epoxy once we're done with Bodywork. So yeah, now that it's sanded down with the 180 though, I want to see how much better it feels, because honestly there were some spots where it felt kind of rough, almost like if the spray gun would have sprayed it on a little dry. But yeah, this should have fixed it. Oh yeah, that's way better. That feels so smooth. Like before, especially if you guys like, I'm pretty sure you guys know that the microfibers get caught on everything. So yeah, that's way better. Yeah, see, compared to like up here where I didn't sand, huge difference.
With the trunk lid sanded down with 180, it's officially ready to accept the body filler. Now this is the one that we've been using for the whole build, which is called the Evercoat Optex Rage. Now the cool thing about this one is that it changes from pink to green when it's ready to sand. I mean, it kind of takes the guesswork out of it, so it's pretty cool, but it is kind of expensive at $100 per gallon, which isn't bad. I mean, that's kind of what they all go for, but after using this for the whole build, I kind of do want to try a different one, the 3M Platinum one. Platinum or gold, something like that. It's like a yellowish gold type of color, but this one's been working really good. All right,
just like the can says, green means go. We're good to go, baby. Same thing, I'm gonna use the 80, or actually the 180 grit on the DA first. That way I could just remove all these ridges real quick from the overlapping of when we're laying down the filler. But then after that, same thing, we're just gonna block it out by hand with the 180. That way we can get a flat finish. And then after that, we'll sand it down with 180 on the DA to smooth out that 180 hand scratch. And then up to 220 after that.
With the trunk lid, we're going to be taking the same exact steps that we used on the door. So again, we're using the 180 on the DA just to cut down the top layer of that filler quicker. But then after that, we're going to go straight back to the 180 on the block by hand, just to ensure that we get that perfect flat finish. Especially on a flat panel like this that you can see over the top, you want to make sure that it comes out flat, because if not, people are going to be able to, and yourself, you're going to be able to see that bodywork, how bad it is, and it's just going to leave room for more to be desired, you know what I'm saying? So we got to make sure we just keep blocking it out by hand, making sure we get a nice flat finish and get the best result possible.
All right, guys, after about 2 hours of sanding by hand with the 180 grit on the block, the trunk lid, well, the top part anyway, is fully done. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. That block though, that big block, is the fucking secret though, man. Not only does it help speed things up because it's a quicker, or because it's a bigger block, but man, you can tell once you use the guide coat how even it fucking just sands out so good. But yeah, I wanted to wait to feel it here so you could get a live reaction. I might have missed one right there. My boy, but the rest feels so sick, dog. That fucking block is that's the secret, dog. That fucking block. Yeah, I think I missed one right there though, but oh my god, that block is the secret, bro. Because you guys seen how many dents we had. Damn. Now that that's done, I need to go ahead and start sanding this down to bare metal, and that way we can clean it up, because there's crow's feet damage back here too. There's chips, like you can see the chip right there. That's pretty nasty right there, and then there's a pretty gnarly one right there too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it down to bare metal with the 180. I think I have some 150 left just to speed it up, and then we can go ahead and same thing, lay filler down here. But yeah, this section should be quicker because it's only this section here, this, another, like the light covers here, and then this has another like piece that comes off. So this just got sanded down with the maroon scuff pad, and then we could just seal and then base and clear over that. All right guys, we're making pretty good progress, but before I take all the paint off, I wanted to show you guys a couple more that got exposed. So this one, I can feel it. I don't know why I missed it, but yeah. And then we got another small one over here, and then the two that I had mentioned previously. And fuck, I'm still trying to decide, because usually when you have dents like this, like back to back, you would want to usually like bridge the gap with the filler, but they're kind of pretty far spaced out to where I think we might be able to just like patch, but I don't know, maybe a whole coat would give us a better finish. Damn, that's bright. We got it all sanded down to bare metal, and I thought about it a little bit more, and I am just gonna patch them since they're pretty far apart. Yeah, I think that's just gonna be the best thing to do, because if not, I'm gonna spend way too much time trying to take off, you know, filler where we don't even really need it. So as compared to, like, I did do a whole thing across here because this is a flat surface, and we need this because we're gonna be able to see it like over the top, you know, so we need this to be as flat as possible. And then back here, since it's curved anyway a little bit, it'll kind of hide it a little bit better. I mean, we still want to do a good job, but I think we'll be able to get away as far as like patching it instead of just bridging all the dents.
In case you've been wondering what I've been using to clean the bare metal, it's just some wax and grease remover and a microfiber towel. They actually come in a roll, and you get them at Walmart. They're really good, clean up really well, and you can actually reuse them a couple times and throw them in the washer. But now we're mixing up the body filler, getting it ready for the back side of the trunk lid. And like I mentioned, the reason I'm only patching it here is because it has a curved surface, so it won't be like in your face too much as compared to like the top of the trunk lid, which we did a whole coat on that. That way we could block it out and have it be as straight as possible. But once the filler was laid, I got the 3-inch DA sander out and started tackling the top part of the filler again with the 180 just to cut it down a little quicker, and then moved on to the smaller block by hand, still with the 180 to make sure it comes out smooth. And then after that, we can go back over it with the 180 on the DA to smooth out that hand scratch and get it ready for the epoxy. Still making sure to use the guide coat here. That way we make sure that we remove that 180 grit hand scratch.
All right, guys, we got the trunk lid fully body worked and sanded up to 180 with the DA. And man, this thing is sick, boy. Damn. God damn, it feels so straight. And then we still have to put a couple more coats of epoxy, sand that down, and then high build primer over that, sand that down. Man, this shit's gonna be so straight, bro. Hell yeah. This part too, I'm glad I went ahead and just took all this down to bare metal. There was some rust spots that I had to sand out, but these turned out really good, man. I'm happy with how they turned out. It's feeling real nice. And like I said, this is just gonna get sealed because it's hidden. We'll just hit it. I hit it with a maroon scuff pad. But yeah, man, I'm fucking so glad that we're done with all the major bodywork parts. And now from here, I just got to go back and do all the little details that I missed. But I'll go ahead and show you those right now. So I have 3 sections that I need to correct. One's right here on the door on this part. I still need a little bit more to flatten it out a little bit better. And then this one over here that I completely missed for some reason. You could clearly see it right there. And then the last one is up here. I did kind of already body work it, but I'm not entirely happy with how it came out. So I'm just gonna redo it. It's not terrible, but I just want it to come out better because it's like one of the first things you see as you're looking at the car. You know, the natural progression comes to like the front bumper, hood, fenders, and then you look at the roof. So I want it to, you know, be as flat as possible. And now that I have the bigger block, it should help because I did that with the smaller block. So we'll be able to do a better job with that. And then after those 3 spots, we are literally done with bodywork. It seems crazy to say that because I've been bodyworking this car for a year now. But I mean, it's all been worth it. We've been taking it down to bare metal and doing it the right way, you know what I'm saying? And it's finally coming to a close, so let's just get after it. I got the 180 on the DA so I can scratch up the sections that I need because that's what the filler calls for. And then everywhere else, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the 220 because that's what the epoxy calls for, because I'm gonna pretty much spray the whole car again just for that extra insurance that we make sure we get everything sealed up and nothing rust.
So now on to the final part of bodywork. It's all come down to this, the final details. Starting off here with the door, I still had some to do on there. I just wanted to get it perfect. And then back here on towards the trunk, I completely missed that one. I don't know what happened. And then here on top of the roof, I just want to redo that because I feel like it could come out better. But here, starting on the door, just laying down some filler. We're laying it past the area that we're actually working. That way we can get a flatter finish. And then same thing back here, trying to apply a little bit more than we actually need. That way we could just make sure that it comes out flat and we don't have any issues. But then after that, taking the same approach with the 180 on the DA just to cut that down quicker, and then followed by some guide coat real quick and the 180 on the block by hand. That way we can assure that we get that flat finish that we're looking for. And with this bigger block, it makes it so much easier and with a lot less effort because we're sanding a bigger area at one time, which in turn also gives us that flat finish.
Oh my God, finally, man. It don't even seem real, but we're finally done with bodywork, man. Look how good this came out. It feels so much straighter now. And then especially up here, this shit turned out so good. That block, man, I'm telling you, that big block is the secret. But yeah, we're finally done with bodywork on the Accord, man. Let's go. That feels so good. It don't even seem real, man. But yeah, it's been a year since we started taking this thing down to bare metal and just putting in work, man. And finally, it's coming to a close. Well, as far as the bodywork, like I said, I still have to spray epoxy over the whole car again, and then sand that down, spray high build, sand that down, and then that gets us ready for base and clear. But the bulk of the work is done, man. The only thing that we have left to do in this video, which will actually get us ready for epoxy, is sanding the rest of this whole side down with the 220. That way it'll be ready to accept the epoxy, because up here it's already sanded down and ready. Same thing with the other side, and then the trunk lid, and yeah, pretty much, man. So I'm just gonna go ahead, slap this 220 on the DA, get this side knocked out, and we'll be done. All right, guys, we got this whole side sanded down with 220 on the DA, and now I just have to clean this rear quarter section and a little bit over here. But man, sanding that epoxy down just makes it so smooth, man. And then the good thing about it is, once I use the wax and grease remover on the microfibers, now that it's smooth, it actually just glides nice along the surface, and I'm able to check my work. And bro, it feels so nice. It's fucking crazy, because when like you're in the middle of it, you don't really have time to sit back and, you know, really think about what you're doing. But now that it's coming to a close, as far as like the filler and bodywork part of this, just looking back at the work that I've done, and it's fucking nice, man. It's coming out good, and I'm super proud of it. This being my first ever project where I go in depth like this. I've done some small bodywork things here and there, but nothing like on this level. You know, we've done literally the whole car, so things are gonna start moving a lot quicker around here. Yeah, with the Accord and with the beautiful hatch. So yeah, this is where we're gonna leave it off. A lot of good work went into this video. Yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.